The Biden administration's extreme allegiance to abortion throughout all 9 months of pregnancy has led to radical policy changes throughout the federal government under the Biden administration, including the Pentagon, with the abortion travel procedures that it enacted unilaterally, regardless of what Congress had previously put into law. This came following the Dobbs decision last year. And as we've talked about many, many times on this program, we've had Senator Tommy Tuberville on. He stood strong against the Pentagon's policy in the face of attacks from the White House, Senate Democrats, and even some Republicans. And within the last hour, Senator Tuberville forced the hand of Chuck Schumer, who proved that the Senate could move forward if they just voted. And so they took the initial vote on General Charles Brown as Biden's pick as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. And this is what Senator Tuberville had to say on the Senate floor just moments ago.
It's about time. I've called for individual votes on these nominees for almost 6 months. Instead of voting, Democrats have spent months complaining about having to vote. They want us to use floor time for things like liberal judges like the one we confirmed a couple hours ago. Senator Schumer could have confirmed these nominees a long, long time ago.
It's what happens when you stand your ground. You prevail. Now, the battle's not over, but he has proven that all of this rhetoric, all these scare tactics, scare words, all this stuff saying the military is being held hostage, the nation's at risk by Senator Schumer, simply are not true. Joining me now to discuss this and much, much more is Florida Senator Rick Scott. He serves on 4 Senate committees, including the Senate Budget Committee, the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Senator Scott, welcome back to Washington Watch. Great to have you on the program.
Thank God for Tommy Tuberville. I mean, he stood his ground, and he showed that Schumer was just playing politics with these military nominations. But you know what's really disappointing, on top of what the White House is doing, what Schumer is doing, is the Secretary of Defense, Austin, is doing the same thing. He's attacking Senator Tuberville, and in his position as Secretary of Defense, it's wrong.
But these votes today prove what Senator Tuberville and you and others have been saying all along. They can do this. They can move these nominations forward. They can move the promotions forward. Just have to vote.
They thought it was good politics for the Democrats. I mean, you know what Senator Tuberville is doing is standing up for a law in this country. In America, we don't pay for, with your tax dollars, we don't pay for abortion. And the Secretary of Defense and the Biden administration just changed the policy without coming to Congress. No vote, nothing. So Senator Tuberville did the right thing, and it showed today that this was all politics by the Democrats. They thought it was great politics for them, and they don't care that they're violating the law. They don't care one iota that they're violating the law.
Rules don't matter to them, and I'm going to get into the discussion over government funding in a moment. But I want to go to something. I was actually talking about this yesterday on the program, and then as soon as I finished the program yesterday, I saw a letter that you led with 46 Republicans in the Senate about restoring decorum in the Senate. I mean, I was actually just talking about that yesterday and how rules don't matter to Democrats and how selfish it is to want to change a historic body because somebody wants to wear gym clothes to the floor of the Senate.
You know, we're supposed to represent the American public. We're supposed to be debating the biggest issues in America and in the world. And how disgusting if we don't, we're going to do that and, without looking like we really care about it. So I think the American public thinks this is disgraceful what Chuck Schumer did. He did it unilaterally, like the Democrats are doing everything else. No vote on the Senate floor. I can't imagine he could have gotten the votes to do this. And it's wrong. When people see us on TV or they come to the gallery and watch us debate these issues, I think they're going to be so disappointed when they see people that don't have to dress appropriately and really respect the position we're in. We're in exalted positions. We should respect the institutions of this country, including the U.S. Senate.
Agree. I mean, look, I travel in jeans. It's comfortable. But you even in our operation, when I'm in the conference room with my team or we are in a morning meeting, I'm not in my gym clothes. I'm in a suit and tie because that's the decorum, because we're about professional business. And I know a lot of people get hung up on that, but this is a historic body. And so I commend you for stepping out. And sometimes, again, I just go back to this radical individualism that they're going to make this kind of downgrade the entire institution of the Senate just because one individual wants to run around in his, his pajamas.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. And it's really disappointing. I'm disappointed in Chuck Schumer because, all they really care about is their agenda. They don't care about the American public. They just care. You saw with the votes on the military nominees. It's just everything's politics to them. So it's really disgusting. That's why, I tell everybody, if you don't like the way your government's running, you need to get active, go out there and vote, get involved politically.
Let's talk now about government funding. We've had House members on. They were in a House conference, Republican conference, within the last hour. There's still not a clear path forward. Conservatives are saying, look, we have appropriations bills. We haven't done them. They actually haven't come out of the Senate either. They've come out of committee, but you haven't approved them on the Senate floor yet. That's the way we're supposed to do business. Haven't done it that way in years. And as a result, I think it has facilitated the reckless spending and the $33 trillion we now have in debt.
Well, this is done to spend money. This is done to give a few people the power to spend money any way they want. So here's what's going to happen. If we don't come to an agreement, which I actually think we will, I think the House, led by the Freedom Caucus, is the one that's going to get something done here. But if we don't come to an agreement, we'll do a continuing resolution. They'll say, oh, why do we do it right before Christmas? And then they'll say when it expires right before Christmas, well, can't let government shut down. So the only bill we have is this gigantic spending bill with earmarks and just wasteful spending. But it's your only option, or you have to go home and tell people that you don't care about them and you're going to shut down government. That's how we got to $33 trillion worth of debt. That's how we got to high inflation. That's how we got to highest interest rates in decades in this country. It's wasteful government spending, and it's done by the leadership of both the House and the Senate. And
it happens almost every year. I mean, that scenario that you just laid out, yeah. I've watched it play out over and over. And not only does it continue the funding and you get jammed at the very end, but bad policy is put in there as well.
Absolutely. And you have no ability to do amendments. You have no ability to improve it. And it's happened with Republican leadership and Democrat leadership up here. Ron Johnson said, fool me once, it's bad on me, but he's been up here. He says it's happened to him 13 years in a row. It's happened to me 4 years in a row. I'm glad, led by the Freedom Caucus in the House and other Republicans, they're saying we came up here to rein in government spending. We are going to do that, and we're also going to secure the border. So I appreciate what the Freedom Caucus is doing over in the House, and I support what they're doing over in the House because they are listening to the American public.
How much support do you believe you can rally there in the Senate when it comes over from the House? Because something's going to come over at some point. And then, of course, you already have Schumer almost every single day on the Senate floor saying, the Republicans have to negotiate. We have to have a bipartisan, meaning the Republicans, the conservatives have to wave a white flag and give us what we want.
I'm optimistic, but it's really up to the American public. One thing that we're working on right now, led by Ron Johnson, it's a bill that says we will never shut down government. That way, that takes away the power of the leadership to say, oh, boy, government's going to shut down. So it would be a continuous resolution, it would stop this ability of the leadership in both the Republican and the House side of coming back right before Christmas and saying, man, we just couldn't get anything done, but this gigantic bill, the last one was 3 times the size of the Bible. They wanted us to vote on it within a few hours. Nobody knew what was in it, but they got their votes ultimately, and they got it done within 2 days. And it was horrible for the American public. Causes higher inflation for you, causes higher interest rates for you. This is wrong, and it's got to stop.
So what would be the provisions of Senator Johnson's bill? How would that work to keep government going in the absence of a funding mechanism?
So what we would do is we would keep the funding at where we are right now. And also, it would really put limitations on all of us. We have to stay up here to get a result. I think that's what we should be doing. We should do our job. The budget should have been done this summer. I ran big businesses. You think we waited till the last few days to pass our budgets? No, we did it months ahead of time, and we had a plan. Up here, it's intentional by the leadership because they want to do these spending bills by themselves with no input from any of the rest of us.
Right. And you're jammed at the last minute, and you're going to have a government shutdown, or Christmas is coming, and so you've got to approve it. No time to amend it. No time to read through it. Sounds like a great measure to take this. This would take, as you said, this would take away from leadership basically the leverage they have to keep inflating government spending and rewarding their friends and allies with more government spending.
And it gives you higher inflation, higher interest rates. That's what it gives you. And debt, I don't know how we're ever going to pay off all this debt. But I mean, think about, it looks like, I think in the next 12 months, our interest expense for the federal government is clearly bigger than our defense budget. I mean, you live within your means. Businesses have to live within their means. Your government should live within its means. I did it as governor of Florida. I balanced the budget every year. Florida had not balanced its budget for 20 straight years before I became governor. But we did it because we said, this is what we're going to take in income. This is what we're going to spend. We're not going to spend more.
Well, let me ask you this, Senator. How many of your colleagues share your concern and understanding of where we are from a fiscal standpoint?
Well, clearly 6 of us. We get together once a week. Ron Johnson, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Mike Braun. We get together to to strategize on how do we get this fiscal house in order. I put out an economic report to all senators once a quarter. I have put out information on how the economy is doing, which it's not great. I mean, the inflation is impacting our families. You see the UAW went on strike. Well, guess what? Their wages are going down as compared to the cost of living. What do you expect people to do when their wages go down when the cost of food and gas and housing and everything is going up?
I wish the taxpayers could go on strike and quit paying the government as they keep fueling these policies that are eating into the family budget.
Tony, you'd love this. So if we shut down government, you don't have to worry about federal workers, because if you're so-called non-essential, which I can't imagine why we would have any non-essential people in government, but they still get paid. Yeah. Even if they don't have to work.
Yeah.
Only in government.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Senator, one final question for you, different topic. I just mentioned this, the Biden administration rolling out $600 million for COVID test, and they're relaunching their website. Are you concerned that there's going to be a resurgence of COVID, what I call the election variant, right around election time to try to use that once again?
Absolutely. They will do everything in their power to win an election. So you know that COVID's never gone away in D.C. because your federal workers aren't back to work, many of them. So they've used the excuse that they're still worried about their health. When the rest of us have been back to work, since 2020 actually. So absolutely, they're going to try everything they can. They're going to try masks. They're going to try shots. They're going to try everything they can to have another emergency.
Senator, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today, and appreciate you fighting for the families up there on Capitol Hill.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks for what you do.